Hokage get burning art at the start, Chapter 521 to 532. Chapter 521 Brawl Giant. Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign. Then only a loud shout could be heard. The gigantic dinosaur that was about to hit Nami and Usopp was thrown hundreds of meters away in the blink of an eye. And this person is naturally the Wind Room. After all, in this pirate world, no one except Kazama can perform such a powerful move as Shinra Tensei Almighty Push. Big Brother Kazama, we finally found you. At this time, Nami and Usopp immediately surrounded Kazama, talking to Kazama. I said, Big Brother Kazama, where have you been? Yes, we have been looking for you on this island just now, but we haven't found any trace of you. If you show up a little later, we may both die. Maybe the two of us won't be able to go on that great voyage with you anymore. Hee, don't be so negative. Hearing what Nami and Usopp said, Kazama immediately smiled and shook his head at them. Since you are my comrades in Kazama, there is no way that Kazama will put you in danger anyway. At this moment, there was a wave of swaying in this place. Then Nami and Usopp looked up, and immediately fell out of cold sweat and slumped on the ground. Then the two of them hurriedly rushed to Fengjan and said, I said, Big Brother Fengjan, please help us quickly, since we came to this island, this giant has been chasing and killing us. What? After hearing what Nami and Usopp said, Kazama immediately looked up at the giant rushing towards them. At this time, the giant was even more happy when he saw that the human being Kazama appeared here again. Then, he hurried to the front of the Wind and the others. Everyone, it's better to meet by chance. Since you have come to my place, I wonder if I can invite you to a meal. Kazama originally thought that this giant might really be a bloodthirsty person like Nami and Usopp said. Therefore, Kazama originally wanted to attack the entire giant. But he never expected that this giant is so hospitable now. This naturally made the Wind Room feel a little surprised. At this time, Nami and Usopp were in shock. So they didn't listen to the giant's words at all. Instead, they thought the giant was deceiving them. So the two of them hurriedly said to Fengjan again, I said, Big Brother Fengjan, you must not listen to this giant's nonsense. Yes, this giant is a bastard. He obviously wants to eat the three of us. What? Annoy me too. Although the giant was a very hospitable man, it did not mean that he was a weak man. Now, when he saw that Nami and Usopp dared to insult him, he was instantly furious. Then he immediately held the giant knife and slashed towards the heads of Usopp and Nami. You two little bastards, I invited you to dinner with good intentions. Not only did you not give me face, but you even dared to frame me. It's really unbearable. Since you think I'm going to kill you, so good, now I agree to your request. Chapter 522 Hanging the Giant Dongli. While speaking, the giant screamed and killed Nami and Usopp. At this time, Kazama raised his hand again after looking at it, and directly used the Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign. Immediately knocked the giant to the ground. Because this giant is too huge, and the fan knows that this giant is a friend rather than an enemy. So he didn't try his best. Otherwise, I am afraid that this giant will end up the same as that dinosaur. That is, it was blasted hundreds of meters away by the wind. At this time, Kazama originally wanted the giant to calm down. But the wind never expected that this giant's temper was very stubborn and irritable. As soon as he saw Fengjan take a shot at him, he was even more annoyed. So immediately came a carp to fight, and stood up directly. Well, you little bastard, you dare to fuck me, well, if that's the case, then I'll be with you today. Kazama knew that this giant was not his enemy, so Kazama didn't want to fight him too much. So Kazama hurriedly avoided the giant's attack and said to the giant, I said, Mr. Giant, I didn't mean to attack you on purpose, but to protect my two companions, plus these two companions of mine have not seen you before, so they think you are going to attack them, so I hope you can calm down. I'll calm down your mother, I'll tell you Xiao Zamao, before you knocked me to the ground, you offended my inverse scales. I'll tell you, I'm a giant who is famous for dying. No one is qualified, there is no ability to knock me to the ground. Now that you have knocked me to the ground, then you will fight with you for 3,000 rounds no matter what. At this time, Fengjian never expected that this giant would be so stubborn. So Kazama could only use his strongest defense and fight the giant. At this time, the giant thought that Kazama was nothing more than a weak human being. As long as he passes by with 3 punches and 2 feet, he can chop the wind into pieces. But he never expected the indestructible giant axe he used to be. Now, the body that hits Kazuma seems to have hit an iron plate, and it doesn't hurt Kazuma at all. Instead, he shook his hands through Yuhi. And that was when the giant was shocked. Na Fengjian said to him again, I'll tell you again, we didn't mean to be your enemy on purpose, we did it as a last resort, so I hope we don't fight for our lives. Okay, since you don't want to fight with my life, let's have a fight. If you can beat me, then I won't attack you anymore, and I can treat you as my good friends. Okay, I'll take your word for it. As soon as he heard what the giant said, Na Fengji smiled and nodded. At this time, the giant didn't take Kazama in his eyes at all. He does not believe that a mere human being can defeat himself by hand-to-hand combat. So the giant once again faced each other and killed it in the wind. At this time, Kazama often thought that his current body was too small. It's too inconvenient to fight this giant. If you cast the full body Susanoo by yourself, I am afraid that one might not be able to kill the giant directly. Chapter 523 Transform into Aikiao Shukaku. Thinking of this, Kazama immediately used the ability of the tailed beast. At this time, I saw that Kazama turned and immediately turned into a Shukaku. At this time, Shukaku's body was naturally as high as 100 feet, exactly the same as that giant. At this time, the giant never expected that this wind is clearly a human being. But he was still able to turn into such a huge, terrifying monster. This immediately shocked him. However, at this time, he still thought that no matter how powerful Fengjian was, he could not be his opponent. So he swung the giant sword again and killed the one-tailed Shukaku that had changed in the wind. But he didn't expect that Shukaku is no ordinary monster now. It's the tailed beast that can manipulate sand. Therefore, this Kazama's face-to-face kung fu manipulated the power of Shukaku's body. After a few face-to-face efforts, the giant was beaten with a bruised face. Afterwards, even the giant sword in the giant's hand was snatched by the wind. Then the wind immediately held the giant sword and asked the defeated giant, How? Now that all your weapons have been taken from me, do you still think you can defeat me? Hearing the words of the wind, and seeing that the wind is indeed extraordinary, the giant could only sigh helplessly. Okay, I've taken it, you're really awesome, I really didn't expect a human being to be so powerful. Hee, of course. Kazama said that he changed his body, and immediately turned into his own appearance. Then he said to the giant again, Since you have lost, I wonder if you can keep your promise and live in peace with us. Hee, of course it's fine. As the giant said that, he immediately nodded happily towards Nakazama. Our giants are the ones who count. My name is Dongli, nicknamed Qinggui, and I'm the leader of the giant pirates. I don't know what you call it. My name is Kazama, and these two are also my companions, Nami and Usopp. Seeing this giant named Dongli, he really stopped fighting against him, and Kazami immediately smiled and nodded at him. At this time, Nami and Usopp were also frightened by the previous battle between Kazama and Tori. They never expected that Dongli's strength was so powerful. It was so easy to convince the so-called giant Dongli to beat him. At this time, Kazama immediately rushed to Nami and said to Usopp, Although Dongli looks very ferocious, he is also a strong man, so don't be afraid of him anymore. Okay, no problem. Hearing Kazama's words, Usopp and Nami immediately nodded happily at Kazama. After all, they trusted Fengjian very much, so naturally they listened to what Fanfiction said. At this time, Dongli immediately warmly invited Kazama and others, and went to his residence, which was inside a cave. Then he brought a few barrels of fine wine and a few pieces of dinosaurs to Kazama and others. At this time, Dongli and the others were crying after a long journey, and their hungry stomachs were already grumbling. So Kazama and the others were also unceremonious, and immediately began to feast on them. And Nami and Usopp have grown a little bit more courageous because the wind is here. Chapter 524 Become a two-tailed cat. Therefore, just like the wind, they began to feast on their food. But just as everyone was enjoying their meal, they suddenly saw a volcano erupting in the distance. Immediately afterwards, Dongli's face became heavy, and he immediately walked out with the giant sword in his hand. This suddenly made Fanfiction puzzled, so Naruto hurriedly got up and stopped Dongli. I said, Brother Dongli, aren't you eating and drinking with us and bragging? Why are you leaving now? Hee, I said, little brother Kazama, you don't know something. Now I am not the only giant on this island, there is also a giant named Brokey, who is the same as me to the giant pirates. But he and I are mortal enemies, and now this volcanic eruption is the signal of a duel between the two of us, so whether I am eating, sleeping or using the toilet, I have to fight him for 3,000 rounds, and I will never die. Oh, since that's the case, I wonder if we can watch the game. Of course this is possible. Hearing Kazama's willingness to watch the battle, Dongli nodded happily. At this time, Kazama immediately led Usopp and Nami to the place of their decisive battle. Sure enough, Kazama and the others saw a giant with two horns here. At this time, behind the giant, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji and others were still standing. This immediately made the wind room happy. At this time, Luffy also found Kazama and others, and immediately rushed to greet Kazama. What, do you two know each other? Tori and Brocky were originally going to fight. But now, once they saw that their respective friends actually knew each other, they were immediately puzzled. And this is that Kazama also immediately came to the two giants and explained the situation to them. Later, when Nabroki heard that Fanfiction had beaten Dongli, it immediately made Naruto burst into laughter. Then this Brocky immediately pointed at Dongli's nose and scolded him angrily. I said, Dongli, you are really a useless bastard. You are obviously the leader of the giant pirate group, but you were defeated by a little human. It really makes me laugh and laugh. Stop giving me nonsense. I'll tell you, Brokey, don't underestimate the little brother Kazama. The little brother Kazama is very good, very powerful. Oh, how awesome and powerful is that? At this time, Brokey obviously didn't believe what Tori said, so he looked at Kazama contemptuously. Did I tell you, boy, although I don't know what trick you used to defeat Dongli, but you have to understand that this Dongli and I are both opponents and a friend of Yao Yao. If you used tricky deceived Dongli, then I can't forgive you no matter what. Hee, if you tell me whether you will spare me, I don't care. In short, if you want to fight with me, then I will fully accompany you. Okay, since that's the case, then today I'm going to see how awesome and powerful you are. At this time, Brocky was talking, and immediately held the Xuanhua axe and killed him in the face of the wind. At this time, the wind changed once again, and immediately began to transform into a tail beast. But at this time, the Kazama did not become Shukaku of one sand, but became a cat with two tails. Chapter 525 Transforming into Isozuke Mio. Because Kazama has the power of 10-tailed beasts, Kazama will naturally change the pattern. Besides, Kazama also wanted to take this opportunity to shock Dongli and Brocky. Let them know that their abilities are far from it. At this time, when Tori saw Kazama, he became even more powerful than the previous Shukaku. This made him even more surprised. At this time, when Brocky saw the wind, he was clearly a human, but now he has turned into that huge monster. This suddenly surprised him. But this Brocky also knows that now is not the time to be shocked, because Toyota has found him and killed him. So that Brocky hurriedly used his trump card. But he never expected that the two-tailed cat that has changed in the wind is very powerful. Whether it is physical attack or magic attack, it has reached the peak state. And this Brokey can only use that mere physical attack. How could he be the opponent of the wind? Therefore, after a few face-to-face efforts, this Brokey was completely defeated by the wind. At this time, Kazama smiled and said to Brokey, "How is it? Are you willing to admit my power now?" Seeing that he was easily defeated by Kazama with 3 punches and 2 kicks, Brokey was extremely embarrassed for a while. Therefore, he could only nod his head in the wind. Because now he has to accept even if he refuses to accept it. After all, the strength of the wind has indeed exceeded his imagination. But just when the wind thought that Brokey and Notori could finally get along peacefully, he didn't expect this Dongli to come to him aggressively now. He pointed to his nose and cursed angrily. "I said, Fengjan, I have good intentions to regard you as a friend, but you dare to look down on me. Oh, why do I despise you here? I really don't understand what you said." Seeing Dongli's anger, Kazama asked with a puzzled face. "Hee, it's very simple. You clearly used the form of a Shukaku to fight against me before, but now you are fighting against this Brokey with a two-tailed cat, and the two-tailed cat is obviously stronger than that one Shukaku. Niyubi is even more powerful. You are clearly looking down on me. Do you think I am not Brokey's opponent? Or do you think that if you use the two-tailed cat and form, I will be beaten down by you? I tell you, I have to fight with you for 3,000 rounds today. I want to continue to fight with you." At this time, when Brokey saw that Kazama seemed to despise Dongli, he immediately became furious. Then, together with this Dongli, he killed the wind again. At this time, when Kazama saw that Dongli and Brokey were so interesting, he immediately laughed out loud. Then he said solemnly to them, "Okay, since you think I'm underestimating you, well, today I'll let you see my more powerful and powerful power." Kazama said that, and then displayed the state of Neo Isofuku again. At this time, with the appearance of Isofuji Sano, a violent storm immediately appeared in the surrounding sea area. After all, Isofuji Mio is the overlord of the ocean world, and naturally it can resonate with the sea. At this time, Dongli and Brokey never expected it. Chapter 526 The 3 major forces of pirates appear. Now Kazama will not only display the power of 1 Shukaku and 2 cats. He would actually use the Mitsuha Isofu, who is even more powerful than these two-tailed beasts. This suddenly scared Dongli and Brokey back a few steps. Then the two hurriedly bowed their hands to the wind. Because they know that now they have no need to fight against the wind anymore. Because there is only one outcome in the fight with Fengjan, that is, being beaten by Fengjan with a bruised nose and a swollen face, crying for father and mother. Then the two immediately gave a thumbs up to the wind. "I said, little brother Kazama, we have lived in the giant pirates for hundreds of years, and we have fought against heroes from all walks of life, but we have never seen such a powerful character as you." Quote. "Yeah, I said, little brother Kazama, how on earth did you become so arrogant?" This. Hearing Natori and Brokey's question, Kazama immediately scratched his head in embarrassment. "This is a long story, but now I am going to the Great Voyage Road and become the world-famous One Piece, and the two of you are now fighting on this small island. Isn't it overkill? I wonder if the two of you would like to be my companions and go with me." "Okay, of course this is fine." Hearing Kazama's invitation, the two immediately nodded happily. If it were an ordinary person who invited us, we would definitely not give him face, but now with your invitation, little brother Fengjan, we will naturally look after you. "Okay, since that's the case, then I'd like to thank Ni a lot." Seeing that Dongli and Brokey were willing to follow him, Kazama immediately nodded happily. But just when Kazama and others were about to set sail again for that great voyage, however, he suddenly found hundreds of huge ships ahead, blocking the way of himself and others. At this time, the wind took a closer look and found that among these ships there were the Navy ship and the pirate group. This can suddenly make Kazama puzzled, because it is impossible for the Navy and the pirates to unite. So Kazama quickly cast that Mangekyo Sharingan, because Mangekyo Sharingan has the ability to look far. Therefore, after a few face-to-face encounters between the winds, I saw the identities of the navy and the pirates in the distance. It turned out that the three forces that appeared here were the three major forces of the great voyage of the pirate world. The navy headquarters, the king's Shichibukai, and the four emperors. Seeing the sudden appearance of these three major forces, Feng Jian was not only not shocked at all, on the contrary, he was extremely excited. Because that Kazama has long wanted to fight against the three major forces of the pirates. At this time, Luffy and the others didn't know what force was ahead. So Luffy and the others hurriedly asked in the wind. Everyone, you don't know, now the top war is coming early. What is going to be a war? What is coming early? What do I mean by saying that you are you, Kazama-san? Hearing Kazama's inexplicable words, Luffy and the others were immediately puzzled. It's very simple, because those who stopped us in front of us were the navy headquarters, the king's Shachiwahai, and the four emperors. What? How is this possible? As soon as they heard Kazami's words, Zoro, Sanji, and the others immediately slumped to the ground in fright. Chapter 527 One person heads up the three major forces of pirates. Because they know very well how awesome and terrifying these three major forces are. Because just relying on one party's power is enough to sweep the entire pirate world. And now these three major forces are actually surrounded together, this is clearly something they dare not even dream of. So Sanji and Zoro hurriedly persuaded Kazama. Big brother Kazama, if you want me to say now, let's leave as soon as possible. Yeah, big brother Fengjian, we all know that you are very good and powerful, but no matter how good and powerful you are, how can you possibly be the opponent of those three major forces? Don't say it's the navy headquarters, just relying on this king to go down to the Chiwahai and the four emperors is enough to beat our noses and bruises, crying father and mother. Hee, everyone, don't worry, I am here in Fengjian, who cares about the four emperors, the king's 7 marshalsees, the navy headquarters, etc., they are all garbage in front of me. What? Seeing Kazama's confidence, Zoro and the others were even more shocked. I said big brother Kazama, we only have these few people, how can we be the opponents of those three major forces? Now they have thousands of people. Everyone, you've been following me for so long, don't you still know the strength of my Kazama? My Kazama can use the clone technique. So if there are too many people, my Kazama has never lost. At this time, Kazama said, while casting Suiten water-style multiple clones, Mokuden wood-style multiple clones, Raiden thunder-style multiple clones, and the technique of shadow clone. With the sound of tens of thousands of bang bang bang, at this time, millions of avatars in the wind immediately appeared on the sea area. This immediately shocked Zoro, Luffy, Sanji and others. Although they have long known that Kazama will use the avatar technique. But they didn't expect that Kazama could actually cast these tens of thousands of clones in one breath. This is clearly the power to fight against the world. At this time, there were also those who were also surprised by the king's lower Chiwahai, the naval headquarters, and the four emperors. At this time, the four emperors and Chiwahai received invitations from the navy headquarters, so they came to deal with Kazama. Although it is said that the king went down to the Chiwahai, he would have obeyed the conscription of the naval headquarters. But the four emperors were unwilling to pay attention to the naval headquarters at first. However, when the four emperors heard about the new pirate in Fengjian, he was so arrogant and powerful. Even the Aokiji and Kyabu of the navy headquarters were beaten with bruises on their noses and faces. This naturally made the four emperors very interested. So the strongest pirate group headed by Whitebeard wanted to fish in troubled waters. I want to see how awesome and powerful this wind room is. And the reason why the navy headquarters should use the power of these three major forces to deal with Kazama. The main reason for this was that Kazama had previously insulted the leaders of their naval headquarters. And let that Navy Smoro be a spy. This is something that their naval headquarters absolutely cannot forgive. At this time, the commander-in-chief of the Navy headquarters, known as the Steel-Boned Sora, immediately came to the bow. Asked Sengoku, the naval chief inspector beside him, "Is that kid in front who cast millions of clones the Kazama who slapped our naval headquarters many times?" "Not bad." Hearing Commander Sora's question, Sengoku immediately returned respectfully. "Although I haven't seen this little bastard in Kazama before, but from the descriptions of the green pheasant and the yellow monkey, it can be concluded that this little bastard is the little bastard who has been against our naval headquarters many times." Chapter 528 Hanging the Navy Akainu. Don't look at this little miscellaneous hair, but his strength is very high, very powerful, otherwise, the green pheasant and the yellow monkey would not have been beaten by him. The nose is blue and the face swollen. Hee, that's because Qingzi and Huang Yuan are too rubbish. At this time, another leader of the naval headquarters, Sakazuki, the naval leader known as Akainu, also immediately came to the front of the Commander Sora. "If the commander-in-chief agrees, I'll grab the head of this little hairy man in the wind and let you play as a ball." "Good." Hearing Akainu's words, Sora nodded in satisfaction. Because Sora didn't take Kazama in his eyes either. Although Kazama has now cast millions of clones in one breath. But in Nakura's eyes, Kazama's move was clearly a juggling of joints, and it was useless. And the pirates that Sora had seen before were all tall and big. But now that Kazama is so thin, he thinks that Kazama is just a little stray hair that only uses tricks. Therefore, he let his most powerful Akainu take the lead. At this time, Sengoku was a very thoughtful person. Therefore, when he heard Akainu's words, he knew that Akainu was clearly underestimating the enemy. So he rushed to Akainu to persuade him. "Akainu, you don't want your wife to be too excited. You must know that Aokiji and Kizaru are not stupid boys. Since the two of them were defeated by Kazama, this shows that Kazama is really very awesome, very powerful. We must not take it lightly." Quote. "Stop giving me the fucking bullshit." At this time, the Akainu didn't like Sengoku for a long time, so he said he didn't pay any attention to Sengoku at all. Instead, a flying body came to the air, and then he used his rockbury ability. Turn the sea below directly into a lava path. Immediately afterwards, the flames were used to kill the millions of clones in the wind. Akainu thought that this Kazama could display so many clones. That shows that the more avatars Kazami casts, the weaker the individual avatars are. But Akainu never expected that the chakra in the wind is infinite. In other words, the wind has this inexhaustible power. Therefore, even if he uses these millions of clones in the wind, his energy will not be reduced. And as long as Kazami is willing, each of his clones can exert the strength of the main body. But Kazama thought that since he said this Akainu doesn't take him seriously. Then I will give him a hard-to-find game first, let this Akainu pretend to be forced, and then slap him in the face. Thinking of this, Kazama ordered his clones to pretend to be invincible. At this time, Akainu saw that Kazama's clone was so vulnerable. In a face-to-face kung fu, he was beaten and retreated by himself, which immediately made him laugh out loud. Then he laughed at Sengoku and the others behind him. "I said you people are frogs in the bottom of the well, and I said that you are not happy. How about you? Although there are many clones in the wind, they are vulnerable, and they are no different from that child." Damn. At this point, Sengoku didn't say anything. However, in the heart of the green pheasant Kiwi, who was in the same position as the red dog, he cursed the red dog incessantly. At the same time, it was incredible that the wind was so vulnerable. Then Aokiji and Kizaru immediately started talking in a low voice. Chapter 529 Crazy Hanging Akainu. "It's impossible. I remember that the strength of this little stray hair in the wind is very powerful. Very powerful. Why is this face-to-face kung fu defeated by the red dog? Yeah, even if it's just a clone, it's impossible to be such a rubbish. Could it be that the little girl in the wind is deliberately trying to lure the enemy? Very likely." Hearing the analysis of the green pheasant, the yellow monkey nodded immediately. "If that's the case, then there's a good show to watch next." The two laughed while talking. And at this time, just as the two had guessed, Kazama wanted to let Akainu pretend to force first, and then slap him in the face. This red dog was invincible all the way, and it took a few face-to-face kung fu to kill it in front of Kazami. "Little miscellaneous hair, you will die." At this time, I saw that Akainu's fist had turned into magma, and instantly smashed it towards the wind. At this time, Fengji did not evade at all, and he just resisted the punch of the red fist. What? How is this possible? Seeing that his unfavorable magma fist has not hurt the wind in the slightest now. He even almost shook himself to the ground, which immediately shocked the Akainu. At this time, before the red dog could react, Kazami immediately grabbed the red dog's arm and sneered at him. "Your magma power is indeed worth seeing, but it's a pity that it's far worse than mine." As Kazama spoke, he unleashed the power of the four Monkey Kings. Because Sun Wukong's life ninjutsu is the power of magma. And compared to this red dog, the rock berry's actual ability is even more powerful and powerful. Yodant lava style, the art of the fire mountain. Yodant lava style, of the wind room, the seawater hundreds of miles in front of it all turned into a sea of magma. My god, is this still a human battle? At this time, Sengoku, who was at the back, looked at it, and immediately broke out in a cold sweat. At this time, even Commander Sora, who had always been as steady as an old dog, almost collapsed to the ground in shock. He never expected that this garbage-like wind room in his eyes would be so awesome and powerful. As soon as he made a move, he turned the seawater hundreds of miles into a sea of magma. This is clearly not something that humans can do. Damn it, it really pissed me off. At this time, the Akainu had already sensed Kazama's tricks because of the observation haki. Elementalize your body in advance to avoid the danger of falling. But even so, this red dog is not much better now. I saw that he was now covered in scars and panting. "You are the first to hurt me like this with magma." "Oh, is it? But why don't I feel honored?" Kazama said that while laughing at the Akainu. "Deceive me too." Akainu originally wanted to use his bragging skills with the wind to suspend the battle and restore his physical strength. But he never expected that Kazama dared to humiliate him now, which immediately made the Akainu furious. So the Akainu made a face-to-face effort and went to kill the wind again. Hound dog. At this time, I saw that Akainu's arm had completely turned into magma, and its attack speed could already be described as lightning fast. But in the face of Kazama, who has absolute defense today, Akainu's attack is garbage. Chapter 530 Hang Fujitora. The wind was not afraid at all, and even knocked it to the ground again. "I'm so mad, I don't believe I can't beat you." Seeing his own defeats again and again, Akainu was so angry that his head became dizzy. Great Spitfire, Fang Yuhiran, Meteor Volcano. In one go, he used all his tricks. Especially that Meteor Volcano is the most powerful move of this Akainu so far. At this time, I saw that the meteorite laughing flaming meteor immediately appeared in the sky, constantly killing the others. "Small bastard, even if you can dodge my attack now, your companions can't dodge it." Kazama saw that Akainu was so shameless, that he was fighting against himself, but now he is attacking his companion. This suddenly made the wind angry. Shinra Tensai Almighty Push sign. Then Kazama performed the Shinra Tensai Almighty Push sign in a face-to-face effort. Blast the Akainu's meteor volcano into the air. Little Misty, even if you exert this repulsive power, you can't completely wipe out all these meteor volcanoes of mine, because these meteor volcanoes of mine are countless. Is that so? Then I'll show you what it means to betray yourself in the same way. Kazama said, and immediately cast a wide range of Yomatsu Hirasaka. Directly sucked all that meteor volcano, Yomatsu Hirasaka. Then he put the exit of Yomatsu Hirasaka on the head of the Navy headquarters and others. This can suddenly frighten the people who fell into a cold sweat. Just at this critical moment, A figure immediately came to the top of everyone's heads. It directly bounced the thousands of meteorites into the air and shook them into pieces. It's the exact same recruiting method as my Shinra Tensei Almighty Push. Seeing that this person also has the power to repel, Kazama is naturally surprised. At this time, Zoro hurriedly said to Kazama, "Kazama, you must be careful, this person is another leader of the Navy headquarters, nicknamed Fujitora, but he uses the superhuman fruit, which can be manipulated at will. The direction of gravity can also manipulate repulsion and attraction, very similar to your Shinra Tensei Almighty Push, Seinen Bansho Tenon, Universal Pull." Quote. "Oh, since that's the case, then I really want to see if he's awesome or I'm awesome," Kazama said, and immediately looked at Fujitora. "To be able to counteract my attack, you are also a talent, but in front of me, the people in the Navy headquarters are all garbage. Stop fucking pretending to be in front of me." At this time, when Fujitora saw that Kazama dared to underestimate himself, he immediately became furious. I saw that Fujitora immediately took out a knife from his waist, and then put all his gravity on the knife. Then, relying on the root of this knife attack, it caused tens of thousands of tsunamis and the collapse of rocks. At this time, the tsunami and rock attack caused by Fujitora had already caused extensive damage. Yomatsu Hirasaka of Kazama cannot absorb it completely. "Hee, you little brat, just wait to die." Fujitora saw that his attack had completely wrapped Kazama and the others, which immediately made that Fujitora burst into laughter. But what he didn't expect was that the wind is still as stable as Mount High. Because that Kazama has already performed a Rinnegan coercion technique that is more powerful than that of the Shinra Tensei Almighty Push. Chapter 531 Hanging the Three Forces. Be aware that the Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign is just an ordinary shock wave. And that Rinnegan coercion can send out a knife net-shaped shock wave. Therefore, with a few face-to-face efforts, the Fujitora's gravitational tigers were all beaten into nothingness. At this time, Fujitora immediately turned the rubble in the air into a large number of meteorites, and attacked Kazama again. "Hee, your technique is quite similar to my Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth. If you don't use it, I'll give my Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth, as soon as possible." "Forget, in that case, then today I will show you the power of my Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth." As Kazama said, he immediately threw a small black ball in the air into the air. Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth. Then the rock that was about to hit the wind was immediately sucked onto the black ball. What? How is this possible? Seeing that the Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth, in Kazama has become as big as the moon. This suddenly shocked Fujitora in his heart. "Next, I'll show you my extraterrestrial meteorite." Kazami waved his hand lightly, and the huge meteorite in the air killed Fujitora and the others. And at this time, don't look at this move in the wind is very awesome. But Kazama didn't really want to kill Fujitora and the others. Because Kazama is not the murderous person. And Kazama knew that among the naval headquarters, Shichibukai, and the four emperors below, there were definitely people who could resist his attack. So Kazama wanted to fight with the three major forces in the pirate world. Take a look at how awesome they are and how powerful they are. By the way, also check whether your own strength is strong or weak. And this time it was just as Kazami had expected. One of the four emperors, Whitebeard, hurriedly used his ability to shake the fruit. It was only then that the Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth, in the wind was knocked into the air. But even so, the rubble that fell off caused damage to the Navy headquarters, Chiwahai, Siwang and others. Immediately afterward, the three major forces were furious. They are not fighting against the wind with the wheel battle, but all of them are killed in the wind. But they don't know that what Kazami likes most now is melee. Because a Kainu is afraid of everything, that is, not afraid of many people. Then Kazama immediately ordered his clones to exert their full strength. From one Shukaku, two-tailed cat and eight-tailed ox ghost, Cubit 9 tails, Demon Fox 10 tails body. Then he made his second part of the avatar become the ghost of the strange fire and the giant wind, and the big snake. Then make the remaining clones cast the full body Susanoo. He just relied on his own strength to fight with the Navy headquarters, Chiwahai, Siwang and others. In an instant, the Navy headquarters and others were defeated and retreated. And now, the three major forces in the world of pirates have truly felt the power of the wind-shattering weeping ghosts and gods. Especially the Akainu, who was beaten by the wind with a blue nose and a swollen face. Now, when he saw Fengyan's avatar, he was so awesome, so powerful, that he was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. He had previously thought that the avatars in the wind were garbage. But he never expected that these avatars in the wind today are not garbage, but that they are as powerful as the main body. This is something that Akainu never expected. Chapter 532 Become the New One Piece. Sengoku, the leader of the Navy headquarters, fell out of cold sweat when he saw that his subordinates were frightened by Kazama's current move. So he hurriedly said to the crowd, "Don't be afraid, everyone, this bastard in the wind is just a pirate, and we are the serious Navy, why should you be afraid of him?" This Akainu was beaten with a bruised nose and a swollen face. As long as we can beat him with a bruised face and a bruised face, then we can really smash his corpse into tens of thousands of pieces and smash his bones into ashes. Okay, no problem. When everyone heard the words of Navy Chief Sengoku, they all had courage again. It's just that the wind today doesn't take them seriously at all. Afterwards, Kazama ordered his millions of clones to beat the Navy headquarters, Chiwahai, Siwang and others to the crap. After a few rounds, the three famous forces in the pirate world were docilely beaten by the wind. And these three major forces really can't imagine that they can't even fight the wind. If this was put in the past, it would be something they would not have dared to dream of. At this time, Kazama immediately laughed and said to them, "How is it? Do you really think you can take off my head? Let me tell you, although I am a pirate, I am also a pirate. It's just to find the great way to sail, so you bastards are not my opponents at all, so I advise you to capture, otherwise I catch your mother." At this time, before Kazama could finish speaking, Blackbeard immediately flew towards Kazama and killed him. "Little bastard, we haven't seen you for a long time." Hearing Blackbeard's words, Kazama hurriedly used his Sharingan to take a closer look. Otsutsuki family he had been looking for. Now Kazama meets this ancestor of Otsutsuki's family, Yuhi, who is an enemy. Therefore, in the face of the wind, he displayed his 23 kinds of different fires and fought with the ancestor of the Otsutsuki family. After all, the reason why Kazama wants to come to this One Piece world now, it is to burn the bones of this family's ancestors to ashes. Because this ancestor of the Otsutsuki family hurt his beloved in the Hokage world, that is, Datongmu Kagaya. And that Kazama, as a sturdy man with strong bones, was naturally impossible to forgive him. At this time, with the display of the 23 kinds of different fires in the wind, Nothingness Swallowing Flame, Emperor Flame, Pure Lotus Demon Fire, Yuhi Lotus Karmic Fire, etc. All of them headed towards the ancestor of the Otsutsuki family. At this time, with the appearance of these 23 kinds of different fires, the hundreds of hectares of seawater below were evaporated into nothingness. At this time, the Navy headquarters, 4 emperors, Chiwahai and others who had been knocked down by Kazama. Once they saw that there was such a powerful trick hidden in the wind, it immediately made them panic even more. They all know that if Kazama used such a powerful move before, then I'm afraid that I and others will be beheaded for a chance to meet each other. So at this time, everyone consciously stepped aside to watch the battle between Kazama and the ancestor of the Otsutsuki family. At this time, because that Kazama has been practicing in this pirate world for many years, it is said that Kazama's strength has undergone earth-shaking changes. However, the ancestor of the Otsutsuki family was eating and drinking in this one-piece world, and did not think about making progress. Therefore, his strength is naturally impossible to beat the wind. Therefore, after a few rounds, the ancestor of the Otsutsuki family was completely beheaded by Kazama. At this time, after the Kazama beheaded the ancestor of the Otsutsuki family, he finally completed his mission. When even ready to return to the world of Hokage. But when Luffy and the others saw Kazama about to leave, they hurriedly stopped Kazama. Brother Kazama, we now know that you are not from our pirate world, but you have been with us here for so long, and we are all good brothers and good friends. If you leave now, then wouldn't it be very sad? I wonder if you could spend some more time with us. Yeah, even if you want to leave, you have to go with us on the Great Voyage Road, become that serious One Piece, and then leave, right? Yes, you are absolutely right. Hearing the warm invitation from Luffy and the others, Kazama was naturally heartbroken. Immediately afterwards, he led Luffy and others to the Great Voyage Road. Obtained the treasure of the Pirate King Roger and became the new generation of Pirate King.